Hi everyone, I did a brake pad replacement on a 2017 Chevy Suburban. I started with turning my steering wheel all the way cranked over so I could access my caliper bolts. I got a extension breaker bar and a 19mm socket to take off the caliper bolts. There is the top one. Righty tighty, lefty loosey, and there we go. Now the bottom one. Okay, I'm just going to remove those bolts and set them to the side. And I like to use a magnetic bowl so that I don't lose any of my parts. Ta-da! Okay, now I take off my caliper, set it off to the side. Okay, then I'm going to take out my old brake pads. I like to use a flathead. There is one side, and then the other side. I'm also looking for any unusuals or any irregular pad wear. That could mean that there's an issue with the caliper, but they looked great. And then there's my guide pins. That's where the little bolts came out of. They were not lubricated anymore very well, so I bought a little packet of brake grease, and I'm going to take some out and put it all over the guide pin. Okay, there's one, and then the second. And clean up your hands. It's really important to keep clean hands while you're working on your vehicles. Okay, now you're going to take your flathead and you're going to get out the hardware, the old clips that hold in your brake pads. You want to replace these every brake change. You can also use a wire brush and some brake clean and clean up the old ones if you absolutely have to. Clean up the bracket a little bit, get all the brake dust off. Okay, now I'm going to grab my brake pads and my new hardware. I'm going to start with the hardware. And you're going to seat them back into the caliper bracket. Not real good at puzzles, but I'll figure it out. There we go. Cool. All right, there's the second one. Sweet. Yeah, my dad was telling really funny jokes, and that's why I'm cracking up. Okay. So there's the new brake pads. And then the old one. So you could see there is a lot more life on the new brake pads than there was on the old ones. Alright, so here comes the backside brake pad. There we go. And then the front side. Make sure you get it in there properly, just like they came out. Sometimes I'll take a picture of the brakes before I tear it all apart so I could have a reference. Okay, now here comes my fancy caliper tool. It's like a little ratchet, and it spreads the little pads there to depress in the piston on the caliper. You can always use a C-clamp or a piece of wood, like a little block of wood, to do this, but this is much easier for me with my little weak arms. You can get this part at a parts store or on one of the tool trucks. Okay, now I'm inspecting the pistons on the caliper, looking to see if there is any irregularities, I guess I would say. And it looked really good. So now you just put your caliper back on, your rotor and your pads. There we go. Then you're going to take your bolts. And I don't know why I always start at the top, but it never goes in right away. So then I end up switching back down to the bottom, and then that one will go in, and then I go back to the top. But eventually they both get seated back in place, and then I tighten them down. Okay, and then I get my 19mm socket and my wrench. And you're going to tighten them snug. And then you're going to give them a little bit of torque. I don't know exactly what the torque spec is supposed to be, but you don't want them loose at all. Don't want to over tighten either, because then you'll be screaming at yourself next time you go to do a brake job. And there you go. Now you're done with that side, and now you can move on to the other side.